Ever get that, like, I don't know, that feeling you want to just hit rewind on life? Like, see what it was like way back when. Well,
Hmm.
today we're doing just that. We're time traveling, going
Yeah.
all the way back to 19th century England.
Oh, wow.
But this isn't just any old history lesson. No, no. We're taking a deep dive into the life of a real person, someone you've probably never heard of, Sarah Greenfield Elms.
Okay.
And get this, her fifth great-grandson. He wrote her whole biography. It's like incredible. Gives us this like amazing window into a world that's just completely different from our own.
I can only imagine. Yeah, what's so fascinating about these personal histories is they give you the texture of everyday life back then, the stuff that often gets missed in those big, sweeping history books.
Totally. It's like finding a little thread from the past.
Yeah.
Just like following it to see where it leads.
Absolutely. It's a journey of discovery.
Okay, so picture this. It's a chilly November day, 1782, and Sarah's born in Storrington, England.
Storrington.
Yeah, it's this charming little village nestled in the rolling hills of West Sussex. And just imagine, no smartphones, no internet.
Can't even fathom it.
Right. Her childhood was all about the rhythms of rural life, like the bleating of sheep, the wind rustling through the fields. There's a totally different pace of life.
It really makes you appreciate how much our world has changed, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
But it's also important to remember that life in rural England then, well, it was incredibly demanding.
Oh, I bet.
Farming was everything. I mean, it was the heart and soul of the economy. People relied on each other out of necessity.
Yeah.
And women, well, their lives were mostly centered around the home and family.
And that's where we find Sarah in those early years,
Right.
learning everything from her mother, cooking, cleaning, sewing, all those essential skills that, would prove so vital later in life.
Mm-hmm.
Then, in 1802, she marries a man named Charles Elms.
Okay.
He was a local bricklayer.
A bricklayer.
Yeah. And known for his, like, meticulous work, very precise. It's actually kind of poetic when you think about it.
How so?
A bricklayer, building a life together, brick by brick.
I like that, yeah. And we shouldn't downplay how important his profession was back then. Bricklaying, it wasn't just a job, it was a highly respected trade.
Oh, absolutely.
Charles, he was literally shaping the community with his own two hands, leaving a tangible legacy.
It's true. We often forget about those everyday heroes, the people who built the world around us, literally. So they start their life together, build a modest home in Storrington, and over the next couple of decades, get this, they have 8 children.
8. Wow, that's a big family.
It was 5 daughters and 3 sons.
That's a testament to the importance of family and community back then, especially with all the changes happening around them with, the Industrial Revolution and all that.
Oh yeah, those changes, they were about to reach even their peaceful little village, weren't they?
They were, and that's where things start to get really interesting. But we'll dive into all of that in part 2 of our deep dive.
Stay tuned. When we left off, Sarah and Charles, they had their 8 kids, a brick house, built with their own 2 hands. It was like the picture of rural life.
It was, but as we know, history, it rarely stands still.
That's for sure.
The Industrial Revolution, it was about to make its presence known, even in a quiet little village like Storrington.
It makes you wonder, what was that like for them? Like right in the middle of all that change,
Yeah, it was a time of just massive transformation. I mean, imagine it would have been like watching the tide come in and completely reshape the shoreline.
Wow, yeah.
Think about it. New technologies popping up left and right, factories appearing in the cities, and this huge demand for workers. It led to this, wave of urbanization with people leaving villages just like Storrington to seek their fortune in the big city.
It's hard to even wrap your head around that, like their whole world just shifting around them.
Exactly.
Did she ever actually mention seeing those changes firsthand?
While the biography doesn't get into specifics, it's very likely that she would have seen it happening all around her. Neighbors, maybe even family members, making that tough decision to leave Storrington for those new opportunities.
I can imagine it must have been, I don't know, kind of a mix of excitement and uncertainty all at the same time.
Oh, absolutely. New goods and products were becoming available, but those more traditional ways of life, they were starting to fade.
And through it all, there's Sarah, right in the thick of it. Not only is she keeping a large household running, which is no small feat, but she also becomes this pillar of the Storrington community.
She really does.
The biography even says that she was like the go-to person for advice, which, I mean, that just says so much about her wisdom, her compassion.
It does. It really highlights how women like Sarah, even though they were often, kind of relegated to that domestic sphere,
Right.
they played such a critical role in holding those communities together, especially during such a time of immense change.
It's like those history books. They always focus on the big events, the wars, the inventions.
Yeah.
But it's the stories of people like Sarah, the everyday folks, that really give us a glimpse into how those events actually impacted people's lives, you know?
Absolutely. It reminds us that history, it isn't just dates and names in a textbook.
Right.
It's about real people facing real challenges, learning to adapt, and, ultimately leaving their mark on the world, even in the smallest but most profound ways.
And Sarah's story, it's far from over. The later part of her life, it reveals just how strong and resilient she truly was, even when faced with some pretty significant personal loss. But we're going to dive into all that right after this quick break. So stay with us. We're back and ready to uncover the final chapter in the life of Sarah Greenfield Elms.
We followed her from a childhood in a quiet village all the way through raising 8 children amidst the rise of industrial England. It's been quite a journey.
It really has, and as we know, life is always full of surprises, isn't it? So what did those later years hold for Sarah?
Well, like so many life stories, this chapter is bittersweet. After nearly 60 years of marriage, Charles passed away in 1860.
Oh, that's heartbreaking. After building a life together for so long, it makes you wonder how Sarah coped with losing him after all that time.
It truly speaks to her strength, because even in the face of that grief, she found a way to carry on. The biography mentions that she eventually moved from Storrington to be closer to her children and ended up settling in Brighton.
Brighton. Now that is quite a change. From a peaceful village to a bustling seaside town, it must have felt like a completely different world.
It absolutely was. You see, by the mid-19th century, Brighton was becoming quite the fashionable destination, known for those grand Georgian buildings and the Royal Pavilion, that incredible palace with the Indian and Chinese influences.
Wow.
Sarah's move from Storrington to Brighton, it really highlights just how much England was changing during her lifetime.
It's like she lived through a time lapse of history. You can only imagine the stories she could have told about those experiences.
That's the power of these biographical accounts, isn't it? We get a first-hand perspective of what it was actually like to live through those times. It reminds us that history, it isn't just abstract events, it's about real people living their lives through all of it.
Absolutely. So Sarah lived out her days in Brighton, passing away peacefully in 1868, surrounded by family. It's a comforting thought.
Yeah.
But her story doesn't end there, does it?
Not at all. She was laid to rest beside Charles back in Storrington, bringing their story full circle.
Oh, that's lovely.
And their legacy, well, it continued through their children, especially their son, also named Charles.
Of course.
He followed in his father's footsteps and became a bricklayer, too.
Building their own legacies, brick by brick, just like their parents. What a powerful image of family and those values being passed down from generation to generation.
It really is. And it makes us think about our own lives, doesn't it? What will our legacy be? What will we leave behind for future generations?
That is quite a thought-provoking question, one we could all benefit from asking ourselves. Sarah's story, even though it's rooted in the past, it holds this timeless message. The strength of the human spirit, the power of community, and leaving the world a little brighter than we found it.
Beautifully said. It's been a pleasure joining you today to explore the life of Sarah Greenfield Elms.
The feeling is mutual. And to all our listeners, we hope you found Sarah's story as captivating as we did. If you'd like to dive deeper into this era, we have a collection of resources curated just for you on our website. Until next time, keep those questions coming, keep exploring, and remember, sometimes the most ordinary lives reveal extraordinary insights.